Hello, all you freshwater and saltwater creatures. Welcome to my seafood marathon. In this collection of videos, we've got salmon 3 ways: broiled, pan roasted, and the crispiest grilled salmon you can ever make. We have my family's famous Friday night linguine with clam recipe, my legendary adventure melt, and there's also a really delicious, vibrant, green, spicy seafood stew that I love so much and is so perfect to have in the summer months. So this is it, guys. We're spawning, we're swimming, we're upstream, we're downstream, we're basking, and we're breaching, and it is time to just be a happy swim creature and come check out my seafood marathon with me. Hey, you stinky little fish heads, it's Carla, and I am back again today in my kitchen for a brand new recipe featuring ingredients that you guys specifically wanted me to work with: salmon and lentils. This is an original for you recipe that I am calling crispy salmon, crunchy salad, tender lentil situation. This is a truly 30-minute start to finish meal. I'm gonna show you how to make shatteringly crisp skin on your salmon fillet. We're gonna cover the pasta boiling method for the lentils, and I'm also gonna make this little crunchy lemony salad that features an ingredient that may either delight or horrify you. Stay tuned to find out. The first thing I'm gonna do is take these beautiful salmon fillets. I'm gonna drizzle with a little grapeseed oil first so the seasonings will just stick better. Just gonna use my hands to spread this on. I do want a little fat on the skin side anyway, so that's happening. I'm gonna throw salt onto the skin and the flesh, but then I'm gonna use spices only on the flesh side. And the reason for that is that I don't want the spices to burn. The salmon's gonna cook on the skin side the entire time, and I don't wanna risk kind of charring the spices while it cooks. So I've got a little bit of ground turmeric. So the turmeric is gonna give a nice kind of grounding, earthy, hearty flavor. It's gonna be a really nice pairing with the lentils. It's also gonna give a really beautiful color to the salmon, so it'll look really pretty when it's done. And now I'm using a full teaspoon of Aleppo. You could use gochujang, you could use a silk chili, just something with a little kick to it. And again, just putting that on the flesh side. This is gonna be exposed to the hot air in the oven, so it's gonna like really give those spices a chance to express themselves. Then I'm just gonna finish with a little extra oil on top of these spices. Spices need fat to bloom in the heat, so it's not that the fish doesn't have enough fat content. I'm sticking it here to make a cooking environment for the spices themselves. So that's it. You can do this 20 minutes before you make the meal. You could do this in the morning and put everything back in the fridge and let them sit. But once your salmon is done, we're gonna go into lentil cookery. Kicking off these lentils with a good amount of vegetable oil. You don't have to use extra virgin. If you want to, you certainly could. Getting about a tablespoon in there. And then it's the exact same measurements of the spices that I put on the salmon. So everything will be kind of like mirrored and togetherness and all that stuff. So I've got my turmeric, I got my chili flake, and then right away I have a cup of green lentils. You can use lentils depuis or just regular green lentils. Sometimes they're labeled French green lentils. Those hold their shape really well. They also keep a nice color. So once those are coated, seasoning with some salt, and I'm gonna pour in about 6 cups of water. The key here, you don't really have to measure the water, but you want lots of water because we want those lentils to have real freedom of movement, the whole world at their fingertips. So now the heat's up to high. This is going to come up to a simmer and go for about 25 to 30 minutes. I'm gonna season this water also with a couple cloves of garlic. I didn't saute any aromatics, just really trying to keep it simple and keep it fast. A couple grinds of pepper. So while I'm waiting for this to simmer and start cooking, I'm gonna set up for my herbs and my crunchy salad. Now that my lentils are simmering, I'm gonna knock out a little bit of the active work that goes into the yogurt sauce. So I've got a couple handfuls of tender herbs. Today I'm using dill and parsley and chives. It could be chive and basil. It could be tarragon and fennel frond. I mean, dill and salmon is a classic. Dill and the lentils go great together, but tarragon would be pretty awesome as well. This recipe, I truly have to credit everyone in my audience who weighed in when I put out basically a call for suggestions on what you guys wanted to see me make. There was definitely a theme. A lot of people were asking for lentil dishes. A lot of people were asking for salmon. It was just kind of a fun challenge. It reminded me of working in magazines and just being told like, oh, this is gonna be a story about whatever and whatever. And then you have to figure out a dish that like really showcases those ingredients. So crispy salmon, crunchy salad, tender lentil situation was born. To my herbs, I'm gonna add about 3/4 cup of Greek yogurt. I'm really eyeballing it. The juice of half a lemon. I'm gonna use the other lemon half later, so we'll end up using the whole thing. This recipe is about time management. You don't have downtime. Every minute that you spend is like getting you closer and closer to being able to sit down. This yogurt sauce is gonna be the dressing for both the lentils and the salmon, so you want something cool and creamy. That said, I do want it to not feel too stiff of a yogurt situation, more of a yogurt sauce. Yeah, this is feeling, you know, just very tight. So I'm gonna loosen it with just a little bit of water. Adding a little water to a yogurt with lemon juice, it's just like an instant sauce. And it doesn't make it watery, it just adjusts the texture. My oven is preheated to 400 degrees. I have my gorgeous seasoned salmon fillets. The idea here is that I'm gonna start the salmon stovetop. Pan roasting is just a really great thing that you should know how to do, and now you're gonna know how to do it. So you can get crispy fish and all the other stuff too. What happens when protein, cool protein, uncooked protein hits a hot pan is that as soon as the heat touches the flesh, you get a contraction, and it's just a contraction of all the muscle fibers that are in the protein. So when that happens with fish and it bunches up and it curls up, you get this like puckering in the middle where the skin is no longer flat with the pan. So after these are in there for 30 seconds to a minute, and I've seen that they kind of clenched up in the center, I'm gonna use the fish spatula just to gently but firmly press them down, so that I know that all of the skin is touching the pan and that it will get nice even browning instead of having like an uncooked area in the middle. The next 2 minutes are just about starting to build color on the skin and get some browning jump started before it goes in the oven. This happens really quickly. You can see some browning around the side of the skin. It's a good sign. I've got browning and these fillets are gonna release. I like to turn the spatula over and kind of go with like a snowplow kind of energy. Flipping that up to double check. That skin is starting to get nice and brown. As you lift it up, let some of the oil like flow back underneath. Salmon is browning. It's not sticking. It looks great. It's going in the oven. The salmon just went into the oven, but my lentils are already cooked. I'm just gonna drain these and season them since they are not being served in their liquid. You can put the lentils right back into the pot that you cook them in. There's no reason to get like another thing dirty. And I just want to check the seasoning. Okay. They're good, they're perfectly tender. They're not mushy, they have nice texture to them. They need a little more salt. And just keep in mind, there's gonna be lots of other flavors. This just has to be nicely seasoned and good. What a difference fat and salt makes. Truly fantastic. I'm gonna make my crunchy salad. I'm gonna use celery. Celery is fantastically crunchy. If you don't like celery, then by all means, my friend, get yourself some fennel, some celeriac. You could use raw beets would be really delicious, honestly, thinly sliced. This is just about like crunch and freshness and flavors that are gonna mingle with all the other flavors. I'm saving some celery leaf for garnish. The first time I made the dish during development, I did celery and I did red onion. It was good, but it wasn't that good. I was racking my brain and thinking about other crunchy, juicy things that could possibly work. Happen to have Granny Smith apples in the fridge because Cosmo loves sour stuff so much. And I was like, let's freaking try it. And we did, and it was good. So that's why there's apples in the salad. Road tested. And because they're gonna get doused in lemon juice, they're not gonna turn brown. If you don't wanna use the apple, use any of the other suggestions that I gave instead of celery. But like, try it. I think you should try it before you decide. I feel like apples proved itself as a salad ingredient. But apple and fish, maybe that was what was weird. It's not weird, it's really good. You guys made me do this. You have to live with the consequences. Remember that half lemon from before? This is her other half. Aww. A little bit of salt on my crunchy salad. Tossy toss. Give it a taste. I like my salmon a little medium rare in the middle. If you want it more cooked through, I would go more towards the 10-minute, 11-minute mark. But I like it a little less, so I'm taking it out at 8 minutes, and I'm gonna let it rest like any other piece of meat. Great. Beautiful and perfect. It's dinner time, baby. I'm gonna start with a big scoop of lentils. Ooh, lucky me, I got the garlic clove. I'm gonna add some of the yogurt. Even though I ended up putting in nice and tart green apple into the salad, lentils can take a good amount of vinegar. It really like wakes every single thing up. Just a little extra puckery happening. And grab a salmon. Do we have a favorite? This guy's nice. This is like your quintessential, like it's like exactly what a salmon fillet looks like on a picture in a menu or something. Just turning that over so we can ooh and ah over that crispy, beautiful browned salmon skin. Now we get a little salad. Don't like cover it with dressing, but just enough so that they're hanging out together. Little extra olive oil over everybody. Maybe a little salt. And that's the dinner that you made me create. You did this. I did get a DM from someone. They were like, I don't like salmon or lentils, but I look forward to what you do next. So if you're one of those people, well, then tell me what you would want me to make. And if you voted for salmon and or lentils, you're welcome. I would love a little thumbs up for my efforts. You wanna get everything in every bite. A little salmon, a little lentil, a little salad, and a little yogurt sauce. Really good. Crispy salmon, check. Crunchy salad, couldn't be crunchier. Tender lentil, tender as the night. Situation, yes, I think the yogurt is the situation. I promised a lot and I delivered. Keep the ideas coming, guys. Hope you like salmon and I hope you like lentils. Hello, my little shrimps, it's Carla, and I'm here again in my kitchen today with one of my favorite recipes from That Sounds So Good. Today I am making Herby shrimp with kimchi tomato sauce. This dish has a lot going for it. It has had a little bit of a glow up. I will go through those changes with you as I demo it. What's magic about this dish is that it comes together in one pot. So there's lots of butter. There's kimchi going with that. There's tomato, there's bouncy shrimp. So you've got a lot of really deep umami flavors. You got some spice, you got some tang. It's really delicious and I can't wait to make it again. If you've never bought tok before or had tteokbokki, which is like a delicious Korean dish that you should go out and eat, this is what you're looking for in the market. They're rice cakes made from kind of smashed and bashed rice that's then shaped into these different shapes. If you cannot find them, just make the original dish and serve it over rice. But I really encourage you, if you've never had them, this is a textural QQ bonanza. One of the things you need to do before starting the recipe is cover these in cold water and let them soak for 20 or 30 minutes, because this is gonna help them hydrate. So instead of getting kind of just like tough and hard when you cook them, they will cook up really chewy and firm and delicious. I'm gonna use 1 cup of this kimchi along with its juices. I wanna have it chopped up so I'm not getting like big pieces of kimchi in the finished sauce. One of the easiest ways to do that is to just go in with a pair of shears and cut the kimchi while it's in the jar. So just like roughly chopping into slightly smaller pieces. It depends on the brand of kimchi. Sometimes you'll get like an entire cabbage leaf. Some of them are a little bit more already broken up. Everything is gonna happen in the same pot. So choose something, this is a 3-quart. You wouldn't wanna go too much below a 3-quart. It could get a little too full for stirring. And choose a pan that you have a lid to, because there will be moments where we need to cover it. The first ingredient is butter. 1 stick of butter. I just want to cook this over medium heat until it is foaming. If I cut it into little pieces, that would happen faster. All right, now that the butter is foaming, I'm gonna add the first ingredient that is a deviation from the original. But remember, folks, recipes are living, breathing things, and even when they're your own, you can with them. So this is gochujang. It's got sweetness, it's definitely got sourness, it's got spiciness, it's got tang, and it's just gonna deepen and enrich the sauce. I'm stirring in the gochujang into this foaming butter. It's quite hot until it's broken up into small pieces and almost looks like it might emulsify with the butter. So this is a little bit like cooking out tomato paste. There is a good amount of sugar in this mixture, so you don't want to burn it. You'll notice that it kind of darkens slightly in color. And once you see that, you can go ahead and add about a cup of kimchi with its juices. That's a really great smell. You want to cook this out about 3 minutes or so, just to kind of get all of those juices starting to warm up and come out of the kimchi. It'll soften a little bit, get some bubbling of the kimchi liquid. Things are happening with the butter, and it's gonna be really quick. Now that this is at a nice simmer, I'm going to add some cherry tomatoes. I use cherry tomatoes in the development of this dish because you can kind of always get them and they're usually pretty good. If you're in high tomato season and you have a beautiful beef steak, you know, chop that up and add that. Tomatoes have sweetness, they have juiciness. The kimchi, along with tomato, has a lot of umami. Butter has umami. So we're just loading up on a lot of ingredients that add deepness and richness to the sauce without having to add like tons of ingredients. Cook for a couple minutes. What I want is to see the tomatoes start to shrivel a little bit, releasing their juices into the sauce. Things I want to see when I open this lid: shriveling, shrinking, skin splitting, simmering. All of these things are happening. Gently pressing down with the back of the spoon on the tomatoes to get them to do their thing. Don't smash them to smithereens. I want a little bit of the shape and like something to bite into from the tomato. And at this point, add the talk that have been soaked and drained. And along with this, I'm just gonna add a little bit of water so that they have enough available liquid to like do their plumping thing that they need to do. And these are just gonna get a little bit of a head start before the shrimp go in, but I don't wanna cook them to their end point because they will continue to cook in the next step. This looks saucy and great. I'm gonna let it come back to a simmer and cover and cook again for 3 minutes. Let's take a look. Oh my God, it smells ridiculous. Kimchi, butter, and tomato are making me crazy. The talk is like plumped up. It's absorbed some liquid. And because it's really hot, I just want to cut into it. Yeah, so it's like chewy, but it's firm. Oh my God, it tastes so good. So I wanted that like nice lively simmer for all of the other phases. Now I want to turn the heat down. I want to cook the shrimp very gently, almost poaching them in this liquid, because that will make them the most tender that they can be. We love tenderness in people and we love it in our shrimps. The cook time on the shrimp might be something like 4 or 5 minutes. They're gonna release a little liquid while they cook as well, so this will get even saucier. Make sure everybody is submerged. Resist the urge to crank the heat. That's how you get tough shrimps. Just cooking to the point where they're opaque. That should take 3 to 5 minutes. While the shrimp are poaching, I'm going to do my herby part. This is basil. You can really be kind of free with the herbs that you want to use. Cilantro, chives, scallion greens, and whites would be really great. Any kind of basil too. The purple basil and the opal basil are gorgeous and taste really delicious. I want to wait till the very last second to do this just so the basil stays nice and green. It's going into like a fairly high acid environment, and that will just make them oxidize and turn the herbs black. So just wait till the end. Cutting through your herbs once as opposed to like chop, 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 chop a million times will also help keep it green. So just be nice. Shrimp check. Okay, they're not quite there, but I'm very pleased with this level of boublage. Gonna stir them because obviously the guys on the bottom are gonna be hotter than the guys on the top. This is also one of the changes from the original recipe. In the original, I cut the shrimp into little pieces. It's knife work that I just no longer feel like doing, and I like seeing the whole shrimp. All right, these are done. They're completely opaque, but just because we've been checking them. I just want to check the seasoning. You may or may not have noticed there's been no salt added to this, and that's because the gochujang is pretty highly seasoned, as is the kimchi, and the shrimp themselves can be like pretty salty, so you don't always need much salt at the end. Two things I'm gonna add. A little bit of lemon juice just to like wake everybody up. You could absolutely use like a dash of rice vinegar in its place. And I'm gonna give that a taste. Delicious. And now I feel like it can take a little bit of salt. You could definitely use salt for salting. I'm going to season with a little bit of soy sauce. And I've killed the heat at this point just to make sure the shrimp don't go over. All right, one last taste. Delicious. In goes the basil. Just fold that through. It's done. Ironically, or maybe not, I don't know if this is irony, but I would 100% eat this also over rice. With the rice cakes, with the tok in there, and have a double carb kind of a night. So saucy, so buttery, so shrimpy, so kimchi-y. She's excited. It smells insane. It's like the buttery fermented chili tomato smell is absurd. I'm gonna try one of these tok. It's the chewiness. It's such a special. I'm just eating a whole shrimp now. Sweet and delicious, not overcooked. This to me is 100% comforting. Spicy food in general is my comfort food. I don't say this a lot, but I'm gonna say it right now. There is nothing not good about this. It is only good things that only get better when they're together. Don't sleep on this one. Delicious. There's probably people in California who like drink this in the morning before they go to, where do they go? To the movie studio? Hey guys, it's Carla. I am here again in my kitchen for another episode of That Sounds So Good. And today I am making a spicy seafood stew. If you're thinking about hosting the Feast of 7 Fishes, 3 fishes, check them off the list. If you just like the idea of a brothy, delicious, slightly spicy green seafood stew that is very different and distinct from like a tomato-based cioppino or a bouillabaisse, we're in Greentown, baby. Let's do it. First of all, if you're new to the channel, like and subscribe. Like, don't miss out. It's gonna be so great. We do fun stuff week after week after week. Over here, I have some shrimps. I am buying them purposely with their shells on. We're just gonna kind of build up a light, flavorful, shrimpy stock using the shrimp shells, and then the shrimps themselves are gonna go in the stew. So it's just easy. I am allergic to raw crustaceans. When they're cooked, I'm totally fine. I learned this when I worked in restaurants and we had to do stuff with raw things all the time, and I would just get hives all over my hands. The way that I like to clean a shell on shrimp is with my Joyce Chens or any other small shear. And I'm going right in from the end where the head used to be, right through the center, and just following the curve of the shrimp all the way down to the tail. And then from there, you just take it out of its little jacket. And then once you have it split open, kind of retrace and just see if there's any black stuff that needs to be scraped out. So I have a paring knife, just pulling that little bit out. Okay, shrimps are done. And I'm gonna set those aside and actually keep them cold. The only thing I need to start the stock at this point is going to be the shells, some spices, an onion, and water. In my sriracha, I have a couple of teaspoons of coriander seed and a teaspoon of cumin. And I don't need to pulverize. I just want to crack the seeds open, more surface area, get the insides outside. Smells really good already. Some people really don't like cumin seed or don't have it. You could use fennel seed here instead, or you could also swap out the coriander for fennel. Olive oil. It's a tablespoon of oil. We're just letting this get hot. Now that the oil is hot, I'm adding my shrimp shells and those crushed seeds. The reason I'm making the shrimp stock from the very beginning is because once it gets going, there's going to be about half an hour of inactive time, and I will use that time to start prepping the other ingredients that go into the stew and into the green sauce that gets stirred in. And I'm always going to do that in the book. In every recipe, I'm going to cue you to start with the longest process so that you can use that downtime in between to do other things in the method rather than doing all of that dicing and chopping just to stand around waiting for your stock to be ready. Woo! Okay, popping, crackling. The shells are nice and pinkish red. I can see that the spices are toasting. I also have a quarter onion. And to this, I'm gonna add 8 cups of water. Once it's at a simmer, just turn down the heat. Let it go for half an hour. Now I'm gonna make this little green sauce that is going to finish the stew. It is obviously inspired by Mexican cuisine because it's got cilantro and garlic and jalapeno. There's coriander in the stock over there, but divergent a little bit. I've got anchovies and fennel. So this is about a cup. Yeah, if you push it down really hard, it's about a cup. A couple of garlic cloves. Book doesn't say to chop them, but these are large, so I'm gonna do that. And a whole jalapeno. You could definitely use a serrano instead. You can leave the seeds, the ribs, the whole thing in there. I mean, that's the spicy part of the spicy seafood stew. But if you want to kind of figure out what you're working with, take a little nibble. It's like literally not spicy in any way. So I'm just gonna put this whole guy in. If you want more spice, less spice, you would add more pepper, or you can take out the seeds to tamp it down. We're gonna put 4 anchovies. And this is just gonna kind of add a really big flavor punch because it's a pretty quick cooking stew and it's a pretty light little shrimp stock. So this is just packed with flavor, and the green sauce gets stirred in at the end, so it's gonna keep a lot of its vibrancy and its fresh flavor and its fresh color. That was 4, I think. The fennel bulb I'm gonna reserve for the stew. Just gonna take off the tops and reserve some of these fronds for garnish. I also need about a tablespoon of oil, salt and pepper. And 1 cup of cold water. Easy peasy. This recipe is in the day drinking and lazy lunches chapter of the book because it's just like a really lovely late afternoon, early evening, white vino, some long shadows, kind of a vibe. Delicious. There's probably people in California who like drink this in the morning. It would really get your day going. All right, so this is our beautiful spicy jalapeno garlic cilantro smoothie that is gonna finish the seafood stew. I'm gonna set it aside until the end of that cooking process. All right, so the remaining fennel bulbs from the tops that went into the green sauce, I've got remaining 3/4 of an onion that the first quarter went into my shrimp stock. And I've got my remaining 4 garlic cloves. This is gonna be part of building the base of the stew. Those are done. So is the shrimp stock. So I can strain that now. All right, this looks and smells, well, it doesn't look that delicious, but it really does smell delicious. Okay, now I have all the elements I need to start cooking the soup. Now I'm gonna start layering different vegetables into the soup pot, and everything is going to come together here. So 1 tablespoon, 2 tablespoons, shimmering, okay. Fennel, onion, garlic. No sizzle. She didn't wait long enough. She's impatient. It's fine. It's going to cook. If you did not have fennel, you could absolutely 100% use celery. And if you have another color onion, that's fine too. Shallot would work as well. Leeks would work. A couple big handfuls of scallions would work. So lots of options there. Now I'm gonna lower the heat to medium and give these veggies a chance to soften and sweeten and develop their flavor before taking on a little bit of color. And I'm just gonna partially cover and let these kind of sweat and sizzle and come down. Takes about 10 minutes, 10 to 12, but where these vegetables are now is great. I don't want them to like go to mush. I'm looking for soft, beginning to brown. All of those things are happening. And shrimp stock. The stock was still hot, so it's not gonna take long for this to come back to a simmer. I just wanna see a couple of bubbles before I add the potatoes. All right, potatoes are going in. You could use a red-skinned potato, a Yukon Gold, any small, firm, waxy potato is gonna be great. And then we partially cover. And that's what happens. So just maintain a gentle simmer, keep your ears open, set a timer till they're done. All right, I'm gonna check the potatoes with my cake tester, not just for cakes. And I just wanna make sure they're really tender all the way through because in the next step, the fish only needs a couple minutes. Lovely. So this is the spicy green sauce, and I'm gonna just add that. Adding my spicy jalapeno smoothie. And it just turns this like kind of awesome lime green color. This is cod cut into like 2-inch pieces. If you didn't have or can't get or don't like cod, you could use hake in its place. You could use pollock or really any firm fleshed white fish. I wouldn't put a very oily fish like salmon or mackerel or swordfish in here. You want something just a little sweeter and milder. And then these are all the shrimps who gave us already their Shrimp shells. Thank you for your service. Wooby. The key thing at this point is to not boil. The cod and the shrimp will be more tender and delicious if they're gently cooked in this stage. And if I were to boil the soup, the cod itself might start to like flake and break into pieces, and that's just not what we're looking for. See you in like 2 minutes. Seafood stew, serving time. It's incredibly fragrant. The color is still bright. That aromatic flavor from the herbs and the uncooked garlic and the jalapeno has not been cooked out. So this just has like a super fresh vibe to it. But then you've got potatoes and veggies that give it some gravitas. Gorgeous. So I have my little fennel frond. You could add some of the cilantro that went into the green sauce too if you didn't have your fronds or forgot or don't care for it. Peg is over there just like very, very serious. That's what it looks like. You don't want this. Do you understand me? You get it now? Just adding a tiny sprinkle of salt. A little bit of lime. The potatoes are tender enough to just cut through with a spoon. Let's have a piece of cod. Delicious fishes. So this is a 3-in-1 for any time you need to have a seafood feast. It's light and bright and green and really doesn't take that much time. We all need a little sunlight in the winter. We're not gonna get it. So like this will help you bring the heat and turn up the greens and eat your seafood and have a party. Do it for me and do it for you. Hello cats and kittens, it's Carla. I am here today in my kitchen with a brand new recipe that has become a family favorite. I was making it so much at home that I decided to ask you, my friends and followers, would you like to see this delicious salmon recipe come to life in a YouTube video? And 98% of you said yes. So I hope that 98% of you are going to love this gochujang broiled salmon bowl that I'm making today. It is delicious, broiled, caramelized, crispy, crackly salmon that is still like delicious and succulent and medium rare in the middle. Let's find out if this fam favorite is about to become a fan favorite. For this dish, I like to do a fillet of salmon for each person. So these are around 6 to 8 ounces each. A good rule of thumb is just go talk to your fish person, ask them like, what's your favorite in the case? What do you like? Definitely something on the fattier side, I think is really great for this recipe because the natural oils of the salmon are gonna kind of come out while it's cooking. They're gonna mingle with the marinade. It's gonna help it get really nice and crispy. Speaking of the marinade, and why it's so good and delicious, I'm gonna make the marinade right here in the little vessel that the salmon's gonna marinate in. So 2 tablespoons of gochujang. If you have not had gochujang, it is a Korean fermented chili paste. It's got heat, but it also has a really nice amount of sweetness to it, a little bit of like funk and depth, and just a little added value. It's pretty complex on its own, but it's great as a marinade. The sugars in the chili paste are gonna help with the caramelization. This is mirin, and this is definitely got some sweetness. It's also in a liquid form, so it helps kind of spread everything out. It's balancing out the heat and the saltiness of the gochujang and the other ingredients. And then I've also got miso. You could use white, yellow, red, like really whatever miso. If you have miso in the house, just use the one that you have. And that's a tablespoon. So miso is like salty, it's savory, it's rich, it has depth. It's also gonna caramelize really nicely. Sesame oil. It's nice to have an oil in the marinade. It's also gonna help spread things around. It's adding nuttiness, it's adding fattiness, it's adding richness. I've got rice vinegar for balance, so we have like some sweet things, we have some hot things. Now there's a little bit of sourness. Soy sauce also gonna help with browning, salty, deep, umami, all of those good things. And then oyster sauce, very rich, helps with browning. Kind of a secret ingredient. Like, oyster sauce is pretty stealth. It's got big payoff, the oyster sauce. I'm gonna finely grate 1 clove of garlic. If you had to skip this, you could. I've definitely made the marinade without the grated garlic, but it definitely adds something. Okay, so those are all of the ingredients for the marinade. If you did have like a shorter amount of time to marinate everything, having a very concentrated marinade is like key. A lot of times why a marinade doesn't kind of pay off is because it's too diluted, and it needs to be like really pack a punch, especially in this case, it's gonna sit for only 20 minutes before we throw it in the broiler. Obviously, I'm just turning the salmon to coat all sides in the marinade. So if you're gonna cook dinner right away, just set this aside to sit at room temperature. If you are doing this a couple or a few hours in advance, I would cover it and stick it in the fridge, but we're gonna go straight through, gliding like a salmon. The next thing I'm gonna do is turn on my perfect pot of rice. This is basic stovetop short grain rice. The recipe is in Chapter 11 of That Sounds So Good, Perfect Pot of Rice. That takes about 18 minutes, and in that downtime, I'm gonna make a couple quickles, which is a new word we just invented for quick pickles. The goal of the pickle here is something cool, acidic, and crunchy. So it's all about like getting some nice texture, interest, and also color. Color is great, we love color. I'm using carrots and red onion today. I have also done this with cucumbers. I have also purchased like pickled daikon, pickled ginger. You could make your pickle, you could buy your pickle. I just think it's important to have something crunchy and acidic happening on the bowl. So for the carrot, I like doing these thin little julienne strips. If you wanted to thinly slice, because that's easier, that is great too. But I'm gonna use this handy dandy tool that my friend Jess Damick, who wrote a great book called Salad Freak, turned me on to, this like julienne peeler. And I truly did not think that it was gonna work as well as it does, and have found it to be astounding and exciting. So you just peel it, and it's got the little teeth, and the teeth make it the julienne. Some mandolins do the little julienne as well, but this is like even easier, and you have great leverage. All right, my other vegetable today is a large red onion. Love it for color. Pickle's really great, easy to get, good balance with the other flavors. You can buy pickled onions, no doubt. Pickled shallots would be great. Could use a mandolin if you wanted to, but it's only half an onion, so. I used to listen to the news while I was making dinner, like on my NPR, you know, all things considered. But you don't want to get so mad right before dinner. That's what I've decided. I'm just too mad. So now I actually bring my laptop into the kitchen, and I watch like pretty trashy TV, and it's been wonderful. We had a TV in the kitchen growing up, so that was like always, you could listen or watch whatever you wanted. Ooh, will it fit? That's the game. All right, so each pickle, this one's gonna be fascinating to watch me try to toss with liquid. This one's gonna be great, but they get the same amount. 2 tablespoons of rice vinegar. And then unmeasured, intangible, but wildly appropriate amount of salt. This is not gonna happen. This is like a know thyself moment. I am stubborn enough to keep going, and stupid enough as well. This is better. Because I have to like toss stuff also. They're each getting the same amount of granulated sugar. And it's just, again, it's about balance. Especially with the onion, a little bit of sweetness is really nice. So I'm just gonna toss these guys to coat. So it's more like a pickled vegetable than it is a pickle, a quick pickle, AKA quickle. I love quickle. Quickles are done. The thing I really love about this recipe is that it goes into the broiler and it takes 7 minutes if you like your salmon medium rare, which I do. You could go 9 or 10 if you want it to be like fully cooked through, but it's so fast and you don't have to heat up your kitchen by putting like the oven on or having any smoking happening or trying to cook the salmon in a pan. So yeah, I think I was late to the game, but like broiled salmon is a strong endorsement. Other thing that is great about broiling, line with the foil on the tray and then the cleanup is like lickety split. I truly sound like an infomercial from 1987. All right, every last bit of this marinade is gonna end up going on top where it's going to caramelize and char. And I'm doing this fillet side up to get the payoff on that delicious charred flavor on the flesh that we're actually gonna end up eating. Not only are we broiling, we are toaster oven broiling, which to me is just so economical and amazing. And if I lived in a tiny apartment or didn't have room for a stove, I would 100% just live and die by the toaster oven. A greatest tool, one of the greatest tools that a gal can have. I went with the 7-minute cook time and they look exactly the way I dreamed that they would look. There's caramelization, there's charred bits, but you still have the delicious gochujang marinade on the side, which is kind of like uncooked over there. So different flavor payoff, different texture payoff, and now it's time to build a bowl. Over the past 2 years, our rice consumption has truly skyrocketed. I started by doing a cup of rice for the family of 4, and we are now up to like 2 doesn't quite give us leftovers the next day. So leftover rice being very important, we'll probably go up to 2.5 or 3 cups. And then this is usually how I serve it at home. I like put all the condiments out and bowls, and everybody just comes and kind of does their own little buffet, build your salmon bowl. This is what I was saying about the skin before. It kind of creates this like nice, easy release barrier between the fish and the foil. So at this point you can choose whichever toppings you want. You can have 3 and you could have all of them. You could start with a few and eat half of your filet and some of your toppings and then come back to the board and have the other ones. So it's a real choose your own adventure. Always kimchi. A pickle, by the way. We have some furikake, put everywhere. And then I'll throw some other toasted sesame seeds just for good measure. Crunchy fried shallot. This is this new, to me, chili crisp. These guys call it hot garlic. It's Mama T's. It is my new favorite. It is so, the toasty garlic flavor is so good. I really love it a lot. So how I like to eat it is I'll go in and just flake off some of the salmon. So it's like super moist, juicy with that yummy marinade. And I'll take some rice and shallot and chili crisp. I love it so much. Honestly, the salmon just on top of rice would be totally amazing, but you get all the other little topper whoppers. The double layer of the gochujang spiciness, the caramelized, crispy, burnt sugar flavor of the part that got charred, plus hot sauce on top, and that little like chili oil flavor. It's truly astounding. This dish is snappy and it is quick and you should make it. It is my favorite salmon bowl I've ever developed, and also the only one I've ever developed. It will go down in history as the greatest broiled salmon bowl that I have ever developed. Hello to all the little fishes in the sea. This is Carla, and I'm here today in my kitchen for I gotta say, controversial, you're either in or you're out recipe. Today I am making how I like it tuna salad melt. This is a recipe that was in That Sounds So Good, not as a melt, just as a sandwich, but today I'm taking it to another place that I love. So if you don't like tuna salad, you definitely don't like tuna melts. For the rest of you, I know that you wanna know how I make it and whether it's different from how you make it, how your grandma made it, how your favorite diner makes it. This is how I make it. Watch and learn, baby. The first thing I'm gonna do to make my tuna salad does not involve the tuna. I am gonna chop up this shallot and get it macerating in some lemon juice. I know a lot of people love like raw red onion on their tuna salad. Maybe you're one of those people. That's never been my thing. It's a little too sharp, but I do really love the little bit of bite that you get from an oniony thing. Hanging it out with the fresh lemon juice while I'm making the rest of the salad is gonna give it a chance to deflame, but then also marinate, like kind of get a little quickle energy. It absorbs the salt, it absorbs the lemony flavor, and then that's the last thing that goes into the salad. It's a little step, but I think it's kind of key. It's key in my recipe. I don't know if everybody knows this, but That Sounds So Good was developed during quarantine, and this was one of the dishes that we ate, I would say, at least once a week. Tuna is affordable, it's a pantry staple, it was something that we stocked up on, and everything else that goes into the salad is also like a common pantry item that we had around. And I would say, you know, with total certainty that 3 out of the 4 people who live here really like it, and one of them does not. I made it anyway. Does that make me a terrible mother? Because it's only the juice of 1 lemon. And the lemon is definitely gonna get things going, but salt is gonna bring out the moisture from the shallot even more, as well as seasoning it. So as this sits, the shallot's gonna kind of tenderize and shrink down a bit. That salt's working on it, then that salty liquid, the lemony liquid, the shallot liquid all become one in the bottom of the bowl. So shallot's just gonna hang out for the rest of the time. I think it's worth it for this to buy good tuna. Tuna's just one of those fishes that can be overfished. Other fish can accidentally end up in the tuna net. If you wanna look into it before you buy and pick a brand that makes you happy, go for it. If not, just do one thing for me and buy your tuna packed in oil. The first step is to drain the oil. Ironically, tuna packed in water, nothing wrong with it. Tuna packed in oil, more delicious. That fat has flavor. It makes the texture of the tuna more like enriched, and I just think it makes for a better tuna salad. My older child is not the one who hates tuna. That's a hint. But the way that we ate this a lot during quarantine was over bowls of steamed short grain white rice, and we would make tuna salad Dawn and have that with broccoli D. And it just became like a delicious comfort food that was one of the bright spots of being home together. Aww. Love a hot pickled pepper in general. Really love a hot pickled pepper in my tuna salad. These are pepperoncini. They've already been sliced. If you find the whole ones, pull out a couple of those. And I don't want these big chunks, so I'm just gonna pass my knife over this. If you can't find pepperoncini, you could use any like hot pickled pepper. So like a pickled jalapeno would totally be fine. A spicy pickle that you dice up would also be great. I live with people who truly loathe raw celery. Only one of them actually. So there's no celery in this tuna salad. You know, I feel like apologizing in advance to people who hate mayo, but then on the other hand, I don't feel like apologizing at all. If you're a person who doesn't like mayo, you have already figured out how to get this far in life, and you're probably not even watching the video at this point. 1/4 cup of mayo. Oh, I need a little brine from my pickled pepper. A couple of teaspoons of prepared horseradish. So this is also bringing that kind of nose tingling heat. It's also vinegary. It's also really easy to have. Should always be in your fridge anyway for all of the dips that you're making. Love it here. few dashes of hot sauce. I think when I developed the recipe, I happen to have green hot sauce in the house, so it's always been green hot sauce ever since. Any kind of hot sauce will work here. A little bit of salt and pepper. Keep in mind the tuna is salty, the pickles are salty, the mayo has salt, the horseradish has salt. So I would start conservative at the beginning and then add as you go. Everybody's got their tuna salad. It's like one of those things, it's like very personal. And it's also something that I really never order when I'm out in the world. Like there's nothing more suspicious to me than the tuna salad in the deli case. Like it's almost terrifying. Some tuna noises. Let's give the people what they want. Taste, assess, adjust, and move on. It's missing salt, it's missing sharpness, and it's missing acid. So what's left is to add this shallot mixture. You're welcome for the noises. Category is fish. That's how I like it. A little more hot sauce. Normally, if it was Monday night, I would stop here. But today is a very special day. We're making tuna melts today. I don't know if it's gonna work out, but I have a dream and I have a vision. I'm about to make some more choices that are right for me. I've got toasted rye bread. I like my tuna melt on rye. That's a me thing. My house, my tuna melt, my mayonnaise, my bread. Yes, there's mayonnaise in the tuna salad, but like the bread's gonna be dry unless it has a layer. You can't have a dry edge, you know? This is enough tuna salad, I believe, for 4 sandwiches. Here's another thing about my tuna melt. Open-faced. It's gotta be open-faced. It's broiler open-faced all the way. I want the cheese to be melted, but I don't really want the tuna to be hot. And it feels like in a grilled cheese style tuna melt, you have an objective of getting the outside of the bread really dark, and that takes more time than simply melting cheese. So that's why, to me, the open face makes the most sense. You have molten cheese, you have tuna that is colder than it is hot, and then you have crunchy, delicious mayonnaise-y bread. That seems right to me. Munster, it's my choice. It is how I like it. I like it with Munster. You might like it with something else. Feel free, do your thing. I'm so happy for you for that. Cheddar is a choice. American is a choice. Choices that I would reject wholeheartedly would be Swiss, absolutely not. Mozzarella seems completely wrong and crazy. And what are the other cheeses? Those are all of the cheeses. So provolone would be a monstrosity. Wrong. It's just so wrong. Too sharp. All that's left now is the broiling. We're going for melting, bubbling, cascading, and then browning. Those are the steps and the stages that I would like to see, and I would like to see them happen under my broiler. Dun, dun, da, dun, dun, da, dun, dun, da, dun, the tuna melt. It's delicious to me.
Talk to the camera.
Okay, I have a vision. I've never done this before. One of these is perfect just the way it is. The other one is an experiment. It may work, it may not. We don't know. We have to find out. We have to know if the vision can become reality. Great. Great. I'm gonna have to pick out the most adventurous looking tuna melt.
How do you deem a tuna melt adventurous looking?
It's just gonna tell me. This tuna melt is adventurous. This tuna melt is regular. This adventure melt is inspired by the tuna melt at Palace Diner, a place I have never been, but I've heard so much about. There is a slab of iceberg lettuce in the middle of this tuna melt. Everything else is not the way I do it. But the vision of the iceberg layer is so enticing to me that I have to see if I can do it. But I don't want hot lettuce because I'm on record about hot lettuce. I'm also on record about an iceberg slab as being something that I really love and enjoy. So we're gonna see if I can make an iceberg slab somehow get into adventure melt, right, March? Without failures, there's no victory. So we have to do a tiny bit of surgery. We're gonna quickly, carefully, oh, everyone who doubted me. and just go to a closet and say 700 apologies to yourself. Slab. Do you see this? This was an effortless roof removal. And now we have tuna replacement project. Oh my God. I love when dreams become reality. It's really just the highlight of my life. Ooh, I don't know. It is what it is. Adventure melt. See and behold. Adventure melt. We swam the high seas. We did not say, I'm going for a little tool around the marina. We said, I am heading into the open seas. I have my tuna rod. I have my dreams and my visions. I have cool things and warm things. I have cheesy things. And I have rye bread things. And they shall come together today on the open great sea. It's ridiculous. It's my dream.
You need to thank your haters.
Thank my haters for inspiring me, spurring me on.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a couple of non-believers here in this room, and boy, are they just sitting in there sowing their wheat or whatever that is. They're sowing seeds of regret now. And I don't think it would be an adventure without a tiny, tiny little umbrella. Right? There we go. You're out on the open sea. You got to keep shaded. Oh, yeah. Definitely. Indeed. That is how I like it. How could you not, like, shiver with delight and joy when you see this? And despite having a plate, I'm going to eat it off the cutting board. Adventure melt. I'll tell you what. It's fun to go on an adventure. It's nothing short of a dream come true. I have nothing but great things to say about how I like it tuna salad adventure melt. You know, whether you like tuna or not, I hope you had fun with me on the exploration of the greater gift of sandwiches to mankind. 2, 4, 6, 8, who do we appreciate? Tuna, tuna, go tuna! Hello to all the clams in the sea. This is Carla, and I'm here again in my kitchen today for another recipe from That Sounds So Good. Today I am making spaghetti with clams, but not just any spaghetti with clams. This is the Lalli family's spaghetti with clams. This is the dish that my family eats every Friday night. Friday night is clam night. Today I'm going to show you one of our favorite versions, which has beautiful Swiss chard and salty crispy pancetta, but you can really spin it any way you like. The non-negotiables are olive oil, garlic, clams, and pasta, and make sure that asses are in seats when those clams open up, because hot pasta waits for no one. There's no reason to be freaked out about clams. They are quick cooking. They are relatively inexpensive. They will tell you when they're done, and they will also tell you when they're dead. When you get your clams home, you're gonna give them a really good scrub until they have no sandy grit left on them. That's important. I use like a little vegetable scrubby brush. As you're going through that, you kind of wanna assess your clam. What you wanna see is a very tightly closed clapper. Pursing, the lips are closed. So this guy looks great. He is all locked up, very strong muscles, clamped down, no gaps, no cracks, no broken bits of shell. Happy little clam. This guy, on the other hand, we have a gaping of the shell, so sleeping with his mouth open, and there's also a cracked bit over here where the shell broke. And sometimes the clams, as they're like sitting, hanging out, maybe before you get them going, they'll relax their muscle a little bit and the shell will start to open. If you tap it on your work surface, like any firm surface, an alive clam will clamp back down. A dead clam can't clamp. He's open. That's it. You don't want to eat this guy. As far as prep, I've got my chard, I've got garlic, and I've got pancetta. Chard stems are delicious. They have great texture. Chard in season right now. I mean, look at how beautiful this is. And I'm going to separate the leaves from the stems. Other spinach, for Swiss chard, you could use mature spinach escarole, which I think would be really fantastic. And if you wanted to use arugula, I would just put that in at the very end. I wouldn't even bother cooking it at all. For the leaves, you could go into like a thin ribbon if you wanted to, or you could do just tearing them. I'm gonna go in kind of like 2-inch kind of pieces. We do this dish a million different ways. The greens could be a variation. Sometimes we'll throw cherry tomatoes in there. Sometimes we'll do chopped tomatoes. Sometimes it's spicy, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it has a pork product. Everybody has a favorite. And actually, let us call Carol Lalli. And I don't know what her favorite is. It might be this.
Hi.
Hi. This.
I have a cold.
Frank has a cold.
I have a bad cold.
Of all of the clam variations, of all of the Friday nights, of all of the years on years on years, favorite variation?
I like the traditional with just a little bit of tomato, a little round tomato, just a slight touch.
Can I speak to my mother, please?
Hello.
Hello, gorgeous. So now it's your turn of all the variations.
Only because it's Christmas Eve, I would have to say the white version if I had to choose one.
So just garlic, olive oil, clam,
The white
and red pepper, and that's it. Love you. Feel better, Frankie.
Yeah, I hope so.
You.
Leo, it's clam night. All of the different ways we do it. What's your fave way?
A little bit of tomato.
A little bit of tomato. You and Frankie, same.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. What is happening?
It's Friday night, and it's going to be your favorite version tonight. What is your favorite version?
My favorite version is just with a little tomato.
Unbelievable. You and Leo and Frank all said little bit of tomato.
I like the one with the pancetta and the Swiss chard.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
Okay.
But I don't know. It makes it more saucy.
Thank you so much for participating in our poll.
Okay, bye.
Love you. Bye. The fact that Frank, Leo, and Nina all said little bit of tomato, I was not expecting that at all. I guess I put this version in the book, not knowing that I had chosen the least favorite of the family versions. But this is really how a dish becomes a dish that stays in the family forever, because there's so many versions, there's so many different ways to make it, and you never get sick of it. So this is what happens on Friday night. If it's me and my mom and my sister and everybody in the house, everybody wants to make the clams. And then we're like, oh, we'll do it together. And then we're all like checking and stirring out from under each other and opening the lid and checking again and being like, I just checked that. And did you salt the water? Yes, I salted the water. And then it is a little bit like too many cooks. We're all trying to make it together, but you can't make it together. Isn't that what family's all about? Just celebrating and annoying each other truly simultaneously every week, every day of the week. And just like that, the pancetta has been cut. So I'm gonna start with 1/3 cup of oil. I'm in a Dutch oven, and having a Dutch oven will let me really toss everything around. Now that the oil is warm, I'm gonna go right in with the sliced pancetta. If you have watched the pasta alla matriciana video, very similar, in fact, same procedure of cooking the pancetta until it starts to render some of the fat, but it's not like gone totally crispy. All right, it took a couple minutes longer than what it says in the book, but that's okay. And that might happen to you. And remember, we're going to visual cues. We're not going to time. So it takes as long as it takes, but it looks really good. So now in this delicious olive oily pancetta-y fat, that's the garlic and the chard stems. They're gonna cook at really similar rates. That didn't take long. I have nice translucent garlic. It's soft, but it's not taking on a ton of color. And the chard stems are softened and slightly golden. And then the chard also released a lot of its moisture, so it already looks saucy in here. So now I'm gonna add some white wine. Use whatever white wine you're planning on drinking. This is really another optional thing. Growing up, we hardly ever use the white wine. So if you don't drink or you don't have wine in the house, just do a splash of water. But its function in the sauce is really to create like some nice steam to get the clams going, because they need steam for heat to encourage them to open. Wine cooked off, a nice sizzle happening. I'm putting the clams in. Avoid the temptation to dump them in. Two things could happen. One is that any bit of grit that may have fallen to the bottom of the bowl is now gonna get poured into the pot. The shells could crack if they fall in or hit each other, and then it's not as nice. Now that they've been placed in the pot, go ahead and stir them, coat them with oil, get some of the veg from the bottom to come up over the top. That's gonna help with the conducting of the heat. You want everybody juiced up and happy and ready to go. And at this point, cover the pot. We're coming in every few minutes, we're checking. Great thing about clams, they will inform you when they're finished cooking by opening. 3 minutes in, time to give a check. Some guys are already opening. This guy is open. To me, this needs to cook more. I want to see it like more popped open, like the way it is when Venus rises out of the ocean. You know, you can't stand on top of this when it's closed like that. Couple more minutes for a check and stir. Okay, so this is what I want to see. That guy's open. Full hinge, full exposure. We've got Venus rising. That is the doneness of the clam, but as soon as it pops open like that, it's out. Midway through, this is where, you know, you want to get your clams out. I have high hopes for like a big clam banza when I open this up. Oh my God, it's exactly what I was hoping for. You've heard of sausage party. This is a clam party. So sorry. Sorry, Cosmo. Okay, this is a miracle and an amazing thing that won't always happen, but every single clam opened. Usually there's one clam that is a conscientious objector and is like, I absolutely will not be opening. I don't care how much you want your pasta. After every other clam has been open for a few minutes and there's one resistor, you just gotta let it go. For boiling water, not quite as salty. Fun fact about me, not a linguine person. A lot of times it's linguine with clams. I don't know how that became the thing. Like, why would you want to be flat when you could be round? That said, any long shape that you like is the shape that you should use. Noodle check, one noodle. It's great, it's under, it's a little, it's very al, which is what you want because we're going back into sauce. So we don't want a soggy noodle. All right, so I have a simmering, I have a noodle, I have a delicious clam sauce. I have a tower of clams, in fact. Pancetta, going back in. Don't forget about the Swiss chard. Your green, your arugula, that would be going in now as well. Or no green at all, because apparently everyone in the family just wants a little bit of tomato. Didn't know. Thought we all liked leafy greens. Turns out I put the recipe in the book that only I like, but you know what? It's my book. So if I had very salty pasta water over here and I had salty clam liquor over here, then we would have a compounding of the saltiness and it would be too salty. But I feel really good about this and I want to show that I have a good amount of sauce collecting in the bottom of the pot. And you really want that. Some people are gonna throw a big fat pat of butter in here. It's not for me. I get it. I understand why. I would rather you put grated cheese on this than added a big old pat of butter. It just doesn't feel right to me. The oil and the butter, I'm not okay with it. I'm gonna season with black pepper. I'm gonna add a few crushed red chili flakes, but I'm gonna sprinkle a few of those in too. This is it. If people are not sitting down, that is their problem, 100%. And whoever's there gets pasta and the other people might not get a clam. I don't know if I've ever had clam night, just the two of us.
Yeah, and not at night is, it's another thing that qualifies clam night.
Clam it up, kid. You've been present for very many clam nights in your short, fantastic life. All the different ways that we do clam night, what's your favorite? Do you like it just clam, garlic oil? Do you like garlic tomato clams? Do you like pancetta Swiss chard? What's your vibe?
I think this is my favorite.
My child. No one else said that.
Really?
No. 3 people said little bit of tomato. Is it because you're getting bacon and you'll take the Swiss chard as part of the...
It makes sense because the garlic and the pancetta go well together, and then the Swiss chard is there so that you can convince yourself that you're being healthy.
If it's Friday where you are, you know what to do.
Make clams.
With as many family members as possible.
Dog is optional, but pretty.
Pretty sweet.
And you see this guy right here? He's my son because he likes the same pasta as me. That's what I base it off of.
You proud of yourself?
Yes.
You should be. Hello, all my little fish fillets. It's Carla, and I'm back again today in my beautiful backyard. I have developed a brand new recipe, grilled salmon for beginners. This is actually a foolproof method for everyone at every level. I developed a couple of little tricks that are really gonna give you absolutely amazing results. I've got a trick for scoring the fish skin so that it doesn't buckle. The patented kill it on the first side technique, which ensures absolutely beautifully cooked salmon. We're actually going to be in a skillet, which is going to make sure that the skin becomes like glassy and totally crisp. I'm serving the salmon today with a charred lemon vinaigrette that you also make on the grill. It is delicious with this dish. It is also delicious with lots of other things. So really it's a 2-for-1. I can't wait to jump into the frothy waters and make the salmon for you. This is a 2-pound piece of salmon, and you want to ask for it all in one piece and preferably from the belly. Having one big piece is going to be an aid and actually really helping in the preparation of this recipe. Fillets cook a lot faster than one large piece like this, so it's not even giving the salmon enough time to get really crispy before you're trying to move it. I'm gonna turn this right over so you can see the skin side. And rather than putting the fillet into the pan just like this, I'm gonna score the skin by making some parallel shallow cuts. And that's gonna do a couple of things. It's breaking up this one large sheet of skin into smaller segments so that it can't kind of pull all the way across its whole surface. So you're getting these like smaller little plots of land, as it were, because the salmon is rounded, and you can even see as I'm going, it's like really easy to cut here, but when I get to the outer edge and I have to angle my knife, it's hitting the board. So what you can do is sort of cheat it in your favor and kind of push the fillet up so more of the top is rounded, which will just help get the knife in there. The other thing that it's going to help us do is get seasoning to actually penetrate a little bit past the skin and to the flesh of the salmon itself. And I'm aiming to space these about 1 inch apart. I want to go shallow, try not to cut too deeply, but you're going to get some of the flesh, and that's okay. That will end up getting seasoned. It's also creating an opening for heat to penetrate to help with the cooking as well. Beautiful. I've got this on parchment just to keep my board clean, cooking outside. The first seasoning I'm gonna do is the salt. I'll add the other ones in a little bit. I just wanna get the salt on here to start actually melting and penetrating into the flesh. And as you go, you can actually rub it a bit into the slits that you just made. For a 2-pound piece, I wanna use about 2 teaspoons of salt. You don't have to measure it, make it rain. While that salt's dissolving, I'm gonna prep the lemons. I'm just using vegetable oil on the lemon, a little bit on these cut sides. They have so much natural sugar in them, they're going to exude some of those juices and stick a little bit, but the oil will help with both the browning and the unsticking. All right, you can see that the salt is dissolved. It's like salty water down there. And I'm gonna coat it with some vegetable oil. This is sticking prevention measure number however many, because we have quite a few. I do have a recipe for not scary whole grilled fish in That Sounds So Good. In that one as well, a really generous amount of oil is incredibly helpful if you are trying to break through the fear of sticking. All right, so I have some really pretty Aleppo pepper. You could use gochujang, you could use urfa, you could use just a little less of a crushed red chili flake. I love Aleppo. This beautiful red color of it will also give it a really beautiful rosy color as well. So it's another reason I love using it. And then also black pepper. Gorgeous and beautiful. I have a 10-inch cast iron skillet that I am using today. The charcoal is set up for medium-high direct heat, which means I've got charcoal all over the surface directly underneath where I'm going to be putting the food, the skillet. For the cast iron to properly heat up, I want it to sit here for about 5 minutes. How can you find out if it's hot enough? Well, you're gonna take a little bit of the water that you're drinking and flick it on the surface, and if it beads up right away and starts to boil, it's hot enough. Hot pan, hot chick, scored salmon. What could go wrong? We're going in, and we're going in skin side down. You see how it's just sliding? It's just sliding. It's just sliding around. Sizzling, great sign. The first couple of minutes that the salmon is in there, I'm using a flexible spatula, and I'm just gonna push down across the surface to make sure that it's flat. You can tell when it's not flat because when you press down, you're gonna hear hissing and sizzling where the part that wasn't touching now is touching. So on this belly end, I heard it a little bit. This is gonna roll skin side down for 90% of the time, kill it on the first side. So now that that is nice and pressed down, not sticking, I'm gonna add the lemons around the edge. You wanna see a little sizzle right away. These will only take 5 or 6 minutes. They're not gonna be in there as long as the salmon, but they do need time to cool down. So it's good to get them going from the beginning. Team Salmon and Lemon are doing their thing. I'm going to slice this onion. If you didn't have onion, you could definitely use scallion, you could use shallot, you could use a different color onion besides red onion. This is gonna end up being the serving platter. So the onions are gonna go right into the bottom. I'm just gonna sprinkle these with salt and toss them, and they'll get floppy and a little bit juicy while they're sitting down there. And then when the salmon sits on top, it kind of is gonna make a delicious warm onion sauce in the bottom of the platter. While we're here, this is a good time to check on the salmon. I'm actually gonna turn the spatula over so it's more like a snow plow than a lifter, because when you go this way, a lot of times you'll go right into the flesh. But if you go this way, it's easier to go under. And I wanna slide really gently underneath, okay? So as I lift up a corner, I'm gonna tilt the skillet so the oil flows that way and then flows right under that part that I lifted up. Kinda wanna do that all around. And this is really just to make sure that as the salmon's sitting, kind of gravity is working. It's pushing itself against the skillet, and maybe a little steam builds up underneath. That steam, that water, that vapor can be a sticky thing. So you just want to turn that back into an oily thing. Lemons are looking delicious. I'm taking them off. That's the color that you want to see, really nice and charred, but not like blackened to a crisp, and they're very soft and very, very juicy. Don't try to juice these right away. They are too hot, so they'll cool down while my salmon is on its last minute or two. You're gonna go off of visual cues, not off of your timer always. We have a beautiful brown crisp edge. We have opaque flesh creeping up most of the way up the side of the fillet. The thinnest side, the belly side, obviously is more cooked. It's less thick. I like parts of my salmon to be really rare in the center, but you're gonna have people over who want it more like salmon skin hand roll, bruleed, and like cooked all the way through. So you kind of get that with a nice big piece like this. So we know that we are brown. We know that we are crisp. Now we just have to turn this over. So I'm gonna use 2 spatulas, but honestly, that was like nothing happened, right? It's freely sliding all the way to the center. And I'm just gonna use the second spatula kind of as a guide and turn it onto the flesh side for about a minute. The skillet is super, super hot. The oil is hot. Everything in that pan is happening. It doesn't need to stay on the grill grates at this point. So turned over, beautifully sizzling, and I'm just gonna let it cook here for this one last minute. We've kissed the second side, and I'm gonna transfer this whole beautiful piece of salmon right onto our onions. That's your presentation side right there. Like any large piece of meat, that salmon needs to rest. My lemon's already rested. Look how juicy. And I can squeeze them now. I think it's really helpful to have a fine mesh strainer for this because the seeds just come flying out. A lot of the pulp is gonna come out too. Everybody stirs with a reamer, right? It's not just me. Tre delicioso. Little salt, little peps. I'm gonna kind of brighten everything up with champagne vinegar, but you can use white wine vinegar. You could use rice vinegar as well. I think cider vinegar would be good. I've been using vegetable oil for everything today because it was cooking over high heat, but for the vinaigrette itself, I have extra virgin. And there's no need to try to emulsify this. This is a broken vinaigrette, so I'm just really stirring to combine so I can get a little taste of everything. It's so fruity. Last thing for the vinaigrette, some really nice chives. I'm doing a little restaurant trick. This is a slightly damp paper towel, and that's just gonna help kind of hold everything together because they're round and they wanna roll. I feel like supermarket chives are always very sad and disappointing, but right now in the summer, the farmer's market chives are just gonna be like bodacious and gorgeous. So it's a good amount, and that's like, this is almost gonna become like a solid situation. Like there's so many solids of the herbs in this vinaigrette. It becomes really textured. Vinaigrette's done. Salmon has rested. For serving, I like to break this up into more bite-sized pieces, which is gonna make it easier to serve. Another benefit of the scoring is that the pieces will flake apart kind of with those cut marks, and that makes it easier. I'm like not even really using a knife. I don't have to cut through. So I'm just flaking this, and it's just super tender. It's falling apart. That skin is so crispy and it's so like nicely adhered that all of the pieces you're gonna pick up, you're gonna get beautiful flesh and you're gonna get crispy skin. So those onions that were underneath are now like softened, juicy, dressed with like delicious salmon fat. What's not to love? I'm just gonna season the inside of the flesh that didn't really get the salt from the beginning. As far as the vinaigrette goes, you can put it everywhere. I'm gonna concentrate on the flesh of the salmon because we've done this amazing, miraculous, special, intentional crisping of our skin. So I don't wanna completely sog it out by putting dressing right on top, but a little bit here and there is nice. And it looks really, really, really pretty. This is my crispy salmon party. So as I spoon this up, I wanna make sure I'm going all the way to the bottom of the platter because that's where my onion friends are. They're delicious and steamy. And then there's also so much good sauce down in the bottom as well. Drooling. This is a large, that's fine. That's not that big of a piece. That's not my TMJ popping. That's the skin crunching. Listen, folks, I'm not a beginner. I'm a trained professional, and I am so smitten with this method that it's hard for me to imagine putting a fillet of salmon directly on the grates again. Why? Why would I? You might identify as a beginner, you might identify as an expert. This is the method that, like, frankly, it's about results. So this is crispy skin salmon for results. I don't care who you are.